Well, it's been quite a surprise for any observer, really, including Afghans and the Afghan government. In a week, we've had 15 provincial capitals, which means essentially the entire province, fall to Taliban control. It's significant. The West has gone, the North has gone. The Taliban now have the capital surrounded. And many people here feel it's just a matter of time before the attacks on Kabul itself begin.
Or do you agree with US intelligence officials who say Kabul could be taken over within 3 months?
Well, it's difficult to predict anything here, Yvonne. Things are changing by the minute, the second. People are flooding into Kabul. The conditions here are horrendous. People are camping out in public parks because there isn't any provision for them. The traffic is awful. Prices are going up. I think that in the short to medium term, we'll be shortages of food and fuel because the Taliban have taken control of the border points as well, and imports are not getting through. It's essentially a city under siege, and what that means, whether there will be a change in government, whether the government will stay and will finally come up with some sort of military strategy to push back the militants, we have to wait and see. So far, the armed forces of the Afghan Republic have been, in many places, melting away without a fight, and this has put a lot of fear amongst ordinary Afghans, and there is a clamour not only to get out of the places where they are outside of the city and into Kabul for safety, but out of the country too.
Lynne, is it a foregone conclusion that the remaining areas controlled by the government will be taken over as well?
I don't think we can say that. I don't think anything is certain, and I'd rather avoid saying who's winning and who's losing, simply because it's such a fluid situation. As you know, the Americans are here and supporting with bombing on Taliban positions outside of the cities. It doesn't look to me as if that's been effective. Biden has said that that will continue, but without some on the ground, fight back, then anything could happen. And you're right, there could just be a rollover.
Well, the US has offered support, ordered troops back into areas of Afghanistan, but not in a combative role. How many of them will there be, and what will they be doing there?
I think there'll be a couple of thousand, and I think that what they will do is resume the position that they had before the drawdown started in earnest, and that's a behind the front lines support, mentoring. The US has already spent almost $100 billion developing the military and security forces here. The international combat missions finished in 2014. The government has had a very long time to get used to the fact that the Americans are taking a back seat. So it should be a big red-faced shame for the government of President Ashraf Ghani that he hasn't been able to do it on his own, that his own military leaders, which he changes in, like some people have breakfast, haven't been able to hold the line. The Americans clearly do not want Kabul to fall. That would be a huge blow to their prestige. But Ghani has been a huge letdown. He's let down Afghan people, he's let down the nation, and really a lot of people here are saying it's time for him to go. So what comes next is anybody's guess.
Peace talks that are happening in Doha, will that have any impact at all?
Well, it hasn't to date. Those talks have been going on for a year. They were part of the deal that President Trump did unilaterally with the Taliban. The Afghan government and so the Afghan people were totally left out of that process. And the Taliban appear to have been very astute in using those talks as a way of delaying any progress, really, while they've just rolled out this military onslaught across the country. Nothing happened this week. Nobody has any faith that the Taliban are going into these talks with goodwill. And it seems very clear to very many observers that what the Taliban want is a military victory. They're not interested in talk. They're not interested in peace. They're only interested in power.
Well, Lynne, the US is starting to evacuate its citizens. Australia is too. How dangerous is it for civilians and foreign nationals such as yourself in the capital?
It's getting more and more dangerous. The British are also sending in troops to evacuate their citizens. So the end is nigh, really. I spoke to British TV guys today who went and visited areas where displaced people are staying, and they were attacked. Things were thrown at them. They were shouted at. This is your fault. Foreigners are going to be in a rather precarious situation here. I predict that very soon we'll be seeing a civic breakdown. Everybody has a gun. I wouldn't be surprised if we're also going to see skirmishes that could be the beginnings of a civil war. Like I said, food, fuel, prices going up, shortages. We're going to see a lot of civic unrest before we get any improvement.
And Lynne, how are you feeling? What plans do you have in place depending on how things play out?
Well, it's been a watching brief up until now, but I think that it's time to make preparations and go, and a lot of people are doing that. You have to have red lines in this situation. I think the Americans and the Brits pulling also getting their people out. No one's contacted me. Australia closed its embassy a couple of months ago. But for the red lines that we look at, Britain and America, embassies closing, troops coming in, airlifts out, I think it's time that people really seriously started considering their own safety.
We do hope everyone does stay safe there. Just a final question, Lynne. What are the likely scenarios that might play out from here?
I think with the clamouring for some sort of political and military leadership, President Ghani has he's got a very, very short, small window of time that he can make some decent changes on the ground and turn around the fight, start pushing back the Taliban. But people are clamouring for him to go. He's been a failure. And once he goes, then I think we'll start to look at how an interim government is formed. A lawyer jirga, as they say, a meeting of all community and religious and leaders in Afghanistan, that there'll have to be the involvement of the Taliban. And then we have to look at whether or not the Taliban want to be involved in that. It'll be a test of their popularity. They keep telling us that the Afghan people want them back. I doubt that very much. This would be a way of them finding out, and then maybe a move towards elections. Will the Taliban agree? They're obviously a force to be reckoned with. They have to be taken into account. It's all open.
Lynne O'Donnell, thanks for your analysis. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Eva.